good evening, good morning, good night, good afternoon. My name is Marcus, the mechanical boy, and today I'm taking a good old gander at robots. But first, let's have a look at some good news for this month. And this is actually now over a month old, so apparently bonobos enjoy pretend tea parties. That's cute. According to The Guardian, clear plastic cups and pitchers adorned the wooden tables in Des Moines, Iowa. Invisible juice was poured and presented to Kanzi, who enthusiastically chose the fake-filled cup, playing along with the man who came to visit. In many ways, it was a quintessential scene of a children's imaginary tea party. Only Kanzi, at 44 years old, was a bonobo. How very fun. Someone says, and it doesn't say who, yes it does, Amelia Bastos, a comparative psychologist at the University of St Andrews in Scotland, says it seems to be a recurring thing in our field, where people come up with reasons why humans are special and unique, and then scientists like me test it out, and we find that actually, maybe we're not that special after all. The animals too are capable of secondary responses and imaginations. So that's that Kanzi the bonobo enjoying a game of pretend. Today's walk will be around KensingtonGardens. I'm not going to be highlighting too much flora and fauna today, more the monuments and sites. So for those of you that will be watching along with the walk, can you help me identify what you see, the flowers, the birds, the animals? Some I will make a note of because there's a few I have in mind because it was a lovely walk. And also just a reminder, if you go over to my Patreon, you get the full audio of this completely ad-free, no YouTube ads, so when you're trying to sleep and then suddenly you hear an advert for, I don't know, say sandals, that just won't happen. And if you are listening on YouTube, what's it called, where you don't get the adverts, there'll also be other fun stuff on Patreon too, as the time goes on. So yes, I'm going to be talking about robots, and that will start now. When we think of robots or robots, we think of futuristic machines, a mechanical human, with all the intellect of all the humans put together into one absolute job's worth. But the concept of the robot is surprisingly old, ancient even, to be honest, very ancient. Many, many moons before even the dawn of electricity, and hello to all the dawns out there, people had the imagination of artificial life. In Greek mythology, the god Hephaestus forged Talos, a giant bronze man tasked with protecting the island of Crete. I have actually been to Crete, and I did not see Talos, a giant bronze man, but I was extremely drunk. By 3000 BC, the Egyptians were using human figurines in water clocks to strike hour bells. Now, this isn't technically robots, it's definitely not robotics as we know it, but the idea of the mechanical droid in a human-like form seems to take on imaginations throughout time. In the 2nd century BC, hydraulically operated statues in Hellenic Egypt were designed to speak and gesture. A bit like that little cherub thing that pisses into a fountain. No, it's not like that, is that? No. And blah, blah, blah. Yes, we skip forward. This is quite a time jump, actually. We're now skipping forward to 1804. Here we hit the real grandfather of the robot, a real precursor to programming. A French inventor named Joseph-Marie Jacquard unveiled the Jacquard loom. It used a series of punch cards to automate complex weaving patterns, becoming the first widely adopted system that could follow a specific program. Now, to me, that feels very much like the start of the computer age, albeit in a more primitive form, like an Excel spreadsheet, concatenating the complex weaves from slow production to units on overdrive. Modern times are shaping And in my head, when I was saying that, I was thinking of Charlie Chaplin caught between the cogs of the machines. This technology increased weaving speed by over 20 times, shifting production from 1 inch to 2 feet per day. Wow. That's a lot of loom. That's a lot of loom. From here, industry and invention began to move at a crazy speed, and in 1921 it was time to name these freaky automatons. Czech playwright Karel Čapek wrote R.U.R. Rossum's Universal Robots. He coined the term robot from the Czech word robota, meaning forced labour or drudgery. How interesting that the origin of the name robot comes from forced labour. Says a lot about how he thought of robots and what their purpose were, especially in the beginning. Interestingly, the play actually features synthetic, organic humanoids, not metal machines, and they eventually rebel and destroy humanish humanity.
Whoa.
Here's a summary of the story taken from the introduction of the English version by Paul Selver and Nigel Playfair. Great name for a playwright if he is. Published in 1923. The play is laid on an island somewhere on our planet, and on this island is the central office of the factory of Rossum's Universal Robots. Robot is a Czech word meaning worker. You got that wrong a bit. When the play opens, a few decades beyond the present day, the factory had turned out already following a secret formula. Hundreds, thousands, even millions of manufactured workmen live in automats without souls, desires or feelings. They are high-powered labourers, good for nothing but work. There are 2 grades, the unskilled and the skilled, and specially trained workmen are furnished on request. When Helena Glory, president of the Humanitarian League, comes to ascertain what can be done to improve the condition of these over-specialised creatures, Harry Domin, the general manager of the factory, captures her heart and her hand in the speediest courting on record in our theatre. The last 2 acts take place 10 years later. Due to the desire of Helena to have the robots more like human beings, Dr. Gall, the head of the psychological and experimental departments, has secretly changed the formula, and while he has partially humanised only a few hundred, there are enough to make ringleaders, and a world revolt of robots is underway. The revolution is easily accomplished, as robots have long since been used when needed as soldiers, and the robots far outnumber human beings. The rest of the play is a magnificent melodrama, superbly portrayed with the handful of human beings at bay, while the unseen myriads of their own robots close in on them. Then comes the epilogue, in which Alquist, the company's builder, is not the only human being on the island, but also the only one left on Earth. The robots have destroyed the rest of mankind. They spared his life because he was a worker, and he is spending his days unceasingly endeavouring to discover and reconstruct the lost formula. The robots are doomed. They saved the wrong man. They should have spared the company's physicist. But the robots know that their bodies will wear out, and in time there will be no new multitudes of robots to replace them. But Alquist discovers 2 humanised robots, a young man and young woman, who have a bit of an Adam and Eve in them. And the audience perceives that mankind is about to start afresh. Nature has won out after all. As a counter to Čapek's dystopian fears, science fiction writer Isaac Asimov coined the term robotics in 1942 and introduced his 3 laws of robotics. The 3 laws are also called the 3 fundamental rules of robotics, or the 4 laws of robotics after the addition of the zeroth law. They govern the robot's behaviour and how we as humans should be using robots. The 3 laws are as such: a robot may not injure a human being, or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. A robot must protect its own existence, as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. Under the zeroth law, a robot must act in the long-range interest of humanity as a whole and may overrule all other laws whenever. So my question to you and to myself is, are these laws still relevant today? Doesn't this feel like an eeriness to the similarities with the emergence of AI? Asimov's laws were to humanize, to an extent, the robots in his stories. The robots are there to help and be trusted as an innocent kitchen utensil or a vacuum cleaner, you know? The laws are there to make a baseline fail-safe for a technology that seemed confusing and scary at that time. But when I look at the first law, that a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm, it's inaction that stands out to me these days as less of a base law and more of a philosophical problem. In the age of self-driven cars and ever more robotics in the workplace, especially factories, safety is an ongoing, live process. Self-driven cars use real-time data so a crash can be analysed. I see this more as a robot trying its best, but not able to guarantee safety. Life is still in the hands of the human at the design, and in the case of the crash, the data analysis stage. And unfortunately, sometimes that data goes back to a company more interested in protecting its image and profits. Tesla. For me, Asimov's laws may all work at the very base level, but with modern day complexity, standards need to be unique to the situation and circumstances. And I would absolutely add on a privacy law too. We're at a point where our data is stored, mined, algorithm to death, and we really own none of it, despite it being us. So, point 1 in my future manifesto would be that our data should be public domain. And I'm not talking look up my bra size or what I last Googled, pandas. But the idea that one day I might have some capital and a dream of a local shop, I can use the public data database, needs a new name, to see, say, the most purchased item for 13 to 30-year-olds within a 20-mile radius, and say that was pretzels. I've identified a market trend and a location for an ideal shop. A pretzel shop. Marcus Pretzels, Pretzelskus, and I've gone on a tangent, so let's now do the top 5 fictional robots, and I'd love to hear yours. Number 1, the one from the Jetsons, the maid. Number 2, the one Marvin one that's always paranoid in the books that aren't actually that funny. No, they are funny sometimes, but it's the same joke over and over, you know, same type of joke. Number 3, the one from Fantastic Planet that's always miserable. I can really, I see a lot of myself in that one. Number 4, Bender from Futurama. And number 5, Wall-E. Didn't make the list, the Star Wars ones, and there's probably loads I forgot about. But if you want to hear this ASMR, but with some music, say you're on a drive somewhere or you're working and you need some music and some talking, there's a Mixcloud version of this. Go over to my Mixcloud in the description box and you'll hear some songs breaking up all the chatter. In 1949, William Grey Walter created Elmer and Elsie, battery-powered tortoises that could find their way to a charging station using sensors and logic. These are the first machines to navigate on their own. I really loved their tortoises. Then, in 1959, the father of robotics, Joseph Engelberger, and inventor George Devol, installed the Unimate on a General Motors factory floor. 400 pounds of hydraulic arm took on the dangerous, toxic work humans couldn't do without losing most of their body parts, like lifting 75-pound parts of hot metal. By 1969, the Stanford arm moved us away from messy hydraulics towards electric motors, allowing for the 6 degrees of movement, roughly approximating a human arm. The 6 degrees of motion or freedom are split into 1, the transitional motions or the linear movement. So these motions include moving along the X, Y or Z axis without rotation. Surge, forward, backward, the longitudinal axis. Sway, left to right, lateral axis. Heave, up and down, vertical axis. And the second set are the rotational motion, the angular movement, and these motions involve rotating around the centre of gravity. So you have roll, side-to-side tilt, like a plane tilting its wings. Pitch, nose up and down. You get the analogy now, like a plane lifting its nose. And yaw, that's Y-A-W, left to right turn, like a car steering left to right. In 1972, a robot named Shaky changed bloody everything. It was the first to use artificial intelligence to plan its moves. Shaky could walk into a room, observe it, create a mental model. I don't know if it could walk actually, but say it could. Create a mental model and navigate around the obstacles without a human steering it. Very shaky indeed. It's 1996 now. In Philadelphia, born and raised. On the chessboard is where I spent most of my days. The chess world champion and one of the greatest players of the game, Garry Kasparov, was up against a new type of opponent. And you can guess which kind, because this is about robots. IBM's Deep Blue, a chess computer. Kasparov won the match 4-2, but Deep Blue made robot history by winning the first game. The very first time a computer had beaten a world champion. Kasparov described Deep Blue's tactics as brute force and adjusted after the first game to a more slow and defensive strat. However, 1 year later, in New York, IBM returned with an upgraded final boss, Deeper Blue, with an improved endgame database, a more powerful evaluation function, which was helped in its fine-tuning by real-life grandmasters, and the machine won 3.5 to 2.5. The last game in the series ended in just 19 moves, and that's insane for a game against a GM, and has become one of the most notorious chess games in history. Deep Blue opened with E4, and Kasparov met it with a Caro-Kann, a notoriously hard to break down defensive opening by black. Garry made a few mistakes, underestimating the power of Deep Blue, leading to the machine having a key lead in development, taking Garry's queen, and the world champion resigned not long after. This sent shockwaves not only throughout the chess world, but also the world. Kasparov was absolutely fuming during the match. He famously accused IBM of cheating, suggesting human intervention, as some of the computer's moves, he say, seemed almost too human in their subtlety. I mean, the poor dude had all of humanity to win for, so, it's a lot of pressure. The said humanity now knew the computer could beat the best human mind in that discipline. How long before it could do that everywhere? It was specifically the parallel processing and search algorithms that were the big leap forward, laying the groundwork for later breakthroughs in fields ranging from pharmaceutical discovery to financial risk modelling, whatever that is. In the year 2000, AI scientist Cynthia Breezel created Kismet, a sociable robot head that could read emotions and react with its own facial expressions. Happy, sad, curious even. I remember this one actually, do you? It looked very fun, silly at the time, and I guess it still does. It was followed not long after by the Roomba in 2002. I can't believe it's that old, but it really just proved that what is a smash hit with humans when it comes to robots is that it needs to do something you can't be bothered to do. In this case, hoover your floors. A massive turning point occurred in 2012 when deep learning took off like a bloody robot rocket. A team led by Geoffrey Hinton at the University of Toronto used deep learning, an AI technique that trains neural networks by exposing them to millions and millions of digital images. The key factors in 2012 that would make this possible are the use of massive data, an explosion of digital images from the smartphone generation and the internet. Processing power had come on leaps and bounds at this point, and this led to increased accuracy. Hinton's team achieved an error rate of only 15.3%, which was 10% better than any competitor. And with that, machines could recognize everyday objects with high reliability. From then on, it was a snowball of progress towards robots gaining the ability to one day do unpredictable tasks with ease. For decades, centuries, robots were limited to repetitive tasks in controlled environments, like our car factory floors, for example. However, the field was now moving to adaptive roles, where robots would be able to handle dynamic, ever-changing situations. We already see today robots performing these complex tasks such as robotic kitchens that can cook breakfast, and robots like Phoenix that are smart enough to sort complex items. Modern AI, such as Google's visual language action models, allows robots to look at a new task and figure out what to do by drawing on training from books, websites, and thousands of videos of other robots doing the same thing. Called the chain of thought reasoning, it helps robots perform complex duties by splitting them into smaller, manageable steps. That's what people say to me, how to do things. Am I a robot? Such as correctly identifying and sorting compost, recycling, and household rubbish or trash. In the household butler genre of robot, see the previous Jetsons reference, prototypes and commercial models like Neo and Optimus are being designed specifically for household work and companionship. Some predictions suggest that household robots will enter the mainstream pretty dang soon, expanding from simple cleaning and cooking to actual caregiving. Babies, giving babies care. That sounds like a really too far for me. So things have come on leaps and bloody bounds. There are still significant technical and very much ethical barriers to overcome before robots can reliably handle all unpredictable tasks. Robots still struggle with short battery life, performance on rough or uneven terrain, and it's well worth looking on YouTube for videos of robots falling over. It's very funny. And unreliable sensors in highly complex or bad weather settings. And for sure, issues like privacy risks, cybersecurity, and the need for clear safety frameworks must be addressed before autonomous systems can scale globally. We need a new, more complex and more modern Asimov's laws. Whilst today, robots are increasingly capable of thinking through a task, like folding laundry, even achieving full household management, we will probably get to a point soon where robots are able to perform surgery, maybe even diagnose us and repair our ills on site. Nanorobots going in and destroying cancerous cells before they can develop. This must be the goal for the next generation if they stop staring at iPads and crying. Futurist Adam Dorr suggests that by 2045, technology could replace virtually all human labour. He compares humans to the horses and carts of the past. He says we are simply being outpaced by cheaper, more capable machine labour. While this sounds like an impending crisis, Dorr actually sees a path to superabundance. If machines can do all the drudgery, humans might be liberated to focus on relationships, community, and creativity. That would dawn the era of the cobot, collaborative robots, designed to work safely alongside humans without safety cages. Sadly, I don't feel as optimistic. The robots will still be owned by the tech giants. Money will always be a weapon. The super rich will need to keep getting richer, and for that there will always have to be a class of people that do not benefit from the technological, economic and social progress a robotic revolution would bring. But either way, we are at the dawn of a new age. It's bloody scary. It's kind of fun, is it? Let's see. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's lecture thing. I don't know what this was. I hope you enjoyed the walk. And if you're off to sleep now, I wish you a wonderful sleep, pleasant dreams, and I'll see you soon.